So that and a nickel gets you a nickel free ice cream after this class if you go down and show your ID. Also, anything else big that needs to be announced? We got the ice cream social going on today at the atrium. There's a debate watch, but you do it at Facebook at your home. The monthly donations for the North Texas Food Bank for September. So we've got a few more days. It's peanut butter. For October, it's macaroni and cheese. You can drop that off at the library and information desk. There's a Boom Boom Bingo, something going on, virtual bingo. You can find out more about it at campuslabs.com. And that's about that. Okay. So, today in class, basically, we're going to round out, finish off talking about Texas as a republic. Then we're going to go ahead and get into the review for our midterm. Remember, it's an online exam. That's going to be on Wednesday, so don't even bother coming to class. Make sure it's just like our quizzes. The window is going to be from 11 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. You have a quiz today. Window is 11 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. Today is a B day, and Friday will be a B day as well. Yeah.
You're saying there's going to be no A class this week?
Well, that would have met on Wednesday, and on Wednesday y'all are having your exam.
Fair.
So to try to keep everything in order. Why, do you not want to come to my class?
I was checking because of Labor Day you went the other method.
I know. But I decided just keep it simple. Use the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Okay, Houston, the quest for annexation. Now, guys, remember, immediately following our revolution, oh, you know what that, no, guys, you want to hear something really weird? The door just closed. This, Sunday, I accidentally, killed a chicken, and I've had all this mischievous stuff happen to me since then, and I think I'm haunted by a poultrygeist. See what I did there? So you want to come here and get a rag, wipe off your desk, and then take a midterm review? Now, y'all remember when we first had our revolution, we wanted to be annexed to the United States, but there was a lot of hesitancy about it because of the slavery issue. Well, we don't bring it up again until March of 1842. And now that England is getting more and more interested in us, all of a sudden, the U.S. wants to get involved. And in October of 1843, the U.S. President John Tyler agrees to meet with our emissaries. The two terms that Texas had, though, was that the U.S. had to place armed forces in Texas to prevent an invasion, and also the negotiations for the annexation of Texas had to be kept secret. Now, A.P. Upshur, who was underneath Tyler, didn't like these agreements at all. But he retired. And the guy who took his place was John C. Calhoun, who was Andrew Jackson's vice president, a Carolinian, who was in favor of the annexation of Texas. So they work out a deal, and it goes all the way to the Senate, and the Senate rejects it. Oh, man. Meanwhile, the population growth in the Republic after the revolution in Texas, people, of course, returned to their homes. And indeed, by the summer of 1837, more than 6,000 immigrants had crossed the Sabine River to get over here. 1840 was our biggest year of immigration, where the immigrants that came in 1840 had outmatched all the other immigrants before. And by 1844, we have a stream of home seekers that are coming here to Texas, which was a good thing because the sale of land was one of the few ways that Texas could actually make money. Well, how many people were flowing here? Well, it was estimated that in 1836, the white population was 34,470. And by 1847, it had reached 102,961. The slave population was estimated at 5,000 in 1836. By 1847, it had reached 38,753. And the number of free blacks grew to 295. Making the total population of the Republic of Texas 142,009. Everybody got it? Now, why were people coming over here? Well, because we had an incredibly, just as we had under Mexico, just as we had under Spain, we had an incredibly generous land policy where you could get vast amount of lands for significantly less than you could get in the United States of America. Not only that, but Mirabeau B. Lamar, the father of Texas education, our second president, led the nation in passing the Homestead Exemption Act. What did the Homestead Exemption Act do? Basically, it exempted from seizure for debt, your home, 50 acres of land, and certain improvements. So in other words, if you're in a deep amount of debt, they can't take away from you your home and 50 acres. Because 50 acres was the minimum amount that you would need for sustenance farming. Soldiers who fought during the Revolution, as well as who supported Texas later, were given lands in return for pay. Sadly, however, in this ordeal, a lot of Tejanos were excluded. And in some cases, like Juan Seguin and Martín de León, he's the impresario who founded Victoria. They suffered cruel treatment from both America and then later on with Mexico. Like Juan Seguin, who had a huge ranch near the town that's named in his honor, Seguin, Texas. He was the first mayor of San Antonio. He worked with the government, but he was so harshly treated that he soon said, forget it, and he went to Mexico, and Mexico said, man, you're a traitor. You fought with them. So it was kind of dissed by them. Kind of a sad life. Ready for the next one? Huzzah! Well, how is Texas going to get rid of its land or sell its land? Well, just like they did at the very end of Spain, just like they did under Mexico, the Republic is also going to try to use the impresario system. Basically, Congress would authorize contracts with an act in February of 1841 and a general colonization law on February 5th, 1842. One of the most important estates to be given away was to the W.S. Peters and Associates Company, afterward known as the Texas Immigration and Land Company. Basically extended southward. The land he was given, the grants, extended a little bit south of modern-day Dallas and all the way up to the Red River. And a lot of immigrants came from like the Ohio River Valley in Missouri, beginning in 1841. But his colonists kind of turned against him, started complaining, things weren't being done efficiently. Which caused, in 1845, the national government of Texas to void his contract. Another grant was given to Charles Mercer. Kind of a battle broke out between the national government of Texas and Mercer about if he qualified the families for the land. Because remember, if you qualified families, you got a whole lot of free land yourself. Well, that was tied up into the courts until well after Texas became a state. And when Texas became a state, they said, yeah, he fulfilled his quota. Henri Castro was a Frenchman who was given land between the Nueces and the Rio Grande rivers. What? That shouldn't say Centerville, that should say Castroville. Do. Anyway, Castroville down by the Rio Grande River. Henry M. Fisher and Bouchard Miller. Basically, it was an American and a German who worked to bring German colonists over here. The Adelosovran Society was the Society for the Protection of German Immigrants in Texas, was organized in 1842 by a group of German noblemen. Whose largest agent was Prince Karl of Solms-Braunfels. And his governmental seat was New Braunfels. And like I said, the Germans were key in settling the countryside. especially in the hill country. And they were the few ones that actually made a treaty with the Native Americans that was never broken with the Comanche. That was signed in Fredericksburg. Now there also was that Franco-Texian Commission. That was a deal between the government of Francais and Texas. They were supposedly gonna build 30 forts, a string of 30 forts for Texas. But it never happened. Ready for the next slide? The advance of the frontier. All right, guys, remember, Texas is huge. Texas is huge. In 1836, basically the settled parts, kind of, sort of, not really, were in a line going from San Antonio to Nacogdoches. And not really further west than that. The first expansion where we begin to move is you have more and more settlers moving into the rich lands of East Texas, especially after Mirabel Lamar fought his Indian wars there. Then there's a rush along the Trinity River to build settlements, including one guy who in 1841, he started a town here. Took him a few years to attract some people to live here. But John Ely Bryant. Do y'all know what town he started?
Fort Worth?
Huh? Nope, not Fort Worth. Close. Well, we're not really sure how he got the name for the town. Some people think it may have been a naval commodore. Other people think it may have been a vice president. Dallas. 1841, John Ely Bryant founded Dallas. Now, fear of Mexican invasions as well as Indian depredations retarded the advance of settlements in southern Texas. Indeed, for some time after the Mexican invasion of 1836, the counties of San Patricio, Victoria, Goliad, and Refugio were almost depopulated. However, in 1839, Henry L. Kinney and William Aubrey established a trading post in a little place that would grow up to become Corpus Christi. And then our prayers are answered. Annexation is achieved. After Sam Houston's second term as president, he of course couldn't run again because they had to take a term off. So his guy is Dr. Anson Jones. And the annexation of Texas was actually a huge thing in the U.S. election of 1844. Indeed, James K. Polk was a huge on Manifest Destiny. He wanted to go to war with England if we didn't get the 54th parallel, 5440 or fight. He thought that the annexation was one of the U.S.'s greatest measures. And remember, Tyler had been working on trying to get Texas annexed, but John Tyler had been thwarted. Well, James K. Polk wins the election, and so Tyler is in the lame duck period. And John Tyler was able to sneak in the annexation of Texas. On February 28, 1845, through a joint resolution, not a treaty of annexation, Texas was added to the United States of America. Now Texas, because we had been our own country, recognized by at least 7 foreign nations, we got some pretty sweet deals. Texas is the only state that owns all of its land. Texas owns 100% of Texas. And one of the things that's very important about that is Texas also owns everything that's under that land. What do we have under our land here in Texas? Oil, natural gas. Indeed, in 1846, it went all the way to a Supreme Court. The fact that we have offshore oil rigs in Texas. And the U.S. was saying that's the U.S., that belongs to the U.S. Texas said no, it belongs to Texas. Because we had a Navy when we were a republic. And basically the Supreme Court agreed with them, and Texas even has water, all the water 20 miles off the Texas coast is Texas sovereign territory. Now of course we get to keep all our own land, yay, but we also get to keep all of our debt. So all that huge land we had when we were a republic, we sold all that land off to the U.S. for $5 million to get us out of hock. The southern boundary, which Texans said was the Rio Grande, Mexico said, oh, excuse me, no, it's the Nueces. It's always been the Nueces. Texas said, no, it's Rio Grande. So the U.S. said, okay, it is the Rio Grande. And even though Texas cannot cede from the Union, Civil War made that abundantly clear, we still can, anytime we want to, we can break into 5 states. If we take a popular election and the people of Texas say we want to do it, let's do it. And basically that would give us a huge advantage in the Senate.
Then we have 54 states.
Yeehaw! And probably all 5 of those new states would have Texas somewhere in it. North Texas, South Texas, East Texas, West Texas, Central Texas. So then, guys, don't cry, but it happened. On February 19th, 1846, at the Texas State Capitol, with Dr. Anson Jones and American Representative J. Pickney Henderson, lowered the flag of the Republic of Texas for the last time, and the Republic of Texas is no more. Now, y'all know what our flag looked like when we were a republic, right? Anybody here know what our flag looked like when we were a republic?
Was it the same as the state flag?
Yeah, it's the same. It's the exact same. But it's just not the independent Republic of Texas. Now I guess I ought to move the camera to show me, because otherwise it's going to be very boring. Okay. So everybody's got the review sheet? Did everybody get a review sheet? And And once again, it's on the web. You got a new folder in your files box that says exam reviews, and you'll find the midterm review sheet. Bo-bo, bo-bo. Okay.
So where do I find the midterm review sheet under files?
Mm-hmm. Did you, and you got that right there, you got a review sheet.
Okay,
But you will be able to find it under files.
okay, perfect, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Okay, guys, remember your final is going to be on Wednesday, September 30th. It's going to be online. You're going to have 50 minutes to complete 20 questions. More than enough time, hopefully. Take your time, read the questions carefully. Make sure you do it right. Basically, you will have, just like the quizzes, from 11 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. And let's take a look. Okay, I tried to break it down into the lectures like prehistory, Spanish Texas, Mexican Texas, a few burns, Revolutionary Texas, and the Republic of Texas. For prehistory, know how people got from the old, how most archaeologists believe that people got from the old world to the new world. Okay? Know about the agricultural revolution. You know, like what most people believe it happened down in Mexico. Know what groups within the Native American peoples they believe actually domesticated the crops and learned how to grow. Know how how the impact of Europeans affected Native America. That's like the end of Native Texas. Well, even though Spain said they owned Texas, LaSalle lands here and that totally changes the game. Know how LaSalle's Fort Saint Louis, how that was a game changer here in Texas? And now that Spain really made an effort to control Texas, just like they did in Spain as well as other areas, they used the mission system. Know like the first missions here in Texas that of course weren't successful, but know about them. Know like the cities in Texas, like Los Angeles, San Antonio, La Bahia, Nacogdoches. Now we had a lot of filibusters, or guys that came here with starting little rebellions like Lafitte, James Long. Perhaps the one that was the most serious was the Gutierrez-McGee expedition, that was also known as the Republican Army of the North. Kind of review that one, know what they were able to accomplish. And why, they kind of showed the weakness of Spanish Texas. what they were able to do. And of course, after their defeat, Joaquin Darindando goes on a trail of blood and basically depopulates Texas. Under Mexican Texas, know about the political groups in Mexico? By then, I'm not talking about Republicans and Democrats. Remember, they're trying to form their own government. They're just dealing with self-rule. So you had a whole lot of strife between the centralists and the federalists. And what did the centralists believe in?
A powerful federal government centralized in Mexico City.
Yeah, well, a strong national government. What did the federalists believe in? Because usually with centralists, there's not too much federalism there. The federalists, we're a federal republic, that we believe in power in the states and power at the national level. Know what most Tejanos and as well as white Texans were? Know about the early impresarios? For that we'd be talking about like the Austins and Green DeWitt. Those are the two I'd pay attention to. But I'd probably pay more attention to the Austins because Stephen was incredibly successful. Under our statehood in Mexico, we didn't have the population yet to become a state of our own. So what was the special kind of deal that Texas had? We were affixed to somebody. Well, everything's going along until we get to a few burns. The first thing there is the Fredonian Rebellion. Now guys, the Fredonian Rebellion, it was a complete failure. Remember, it was the brother that came over here to try to take over Nacogdoches, but know what the ramifications of. Oh, and by the way, they ran away without a fight. Mexican army went up to get them, as did a militia organized by Stephen Austin, and they left without a fight. But it had dire consequences. Know what most Texans' political desires were during the 1830s? Like politically, how did they think their prosperity could be best assured? You know, was it independence? Was it separate Mexican statehood? At Anahuac, know about the big players in that? Like who was William Barrett Travis, who was John Bradburn, or Juan Bradburn. What was the big fight and how did it end? Well, then we jump to revolutionary Texas. Know the orders of the big battle in the Texas Rebellion? What were the big battles? You know, what was the first battle? Had a t-shirt with that on it. Then something happened. Then something happened. Then something happened. Know who led the charge into San Antonio during the Battle of Béjar, which is the siege of San Antonio? Who will follow me to San Antonio? Yeah! also know like the generalities about the Battle of San Jacinto. Like the forces were pretty evenly matched. Mexico was caught by surprise. Santa Anna wasn't captured until the next day. Said he'd worked for Texas, recognition of Texas independence. The Republic of Texas, know who were the presidents of the Republic of Texas? We had 4 of them. Know who they were. And 2 of them were the same guy. So you really only have to know 3. Lamar was certainly a character in his dream of nation building. He did stuff like the Santa Fe expedition. Things that were kind of crazy. But he was also known, he also is known as the father of Texas education. Know what special things he did for schools and education here in Texas. We got it? Any questions? All right, remember, today you got your quiz from 11 to 11:59. On Wednesday, you'll have your midterm from 11 to 11:59. We have an ice cream social right after this class, so go to the atrium, show them your card, get some ice cream to prepare yourself for your quiz, and then go and show me off how